The clock on the wall ticked just past 8 p.m. as Tiana, a 29-year-old waitress, balanced 3 plates of steaming burgers on her arm. The neon sign outside Joe's Corner Diner, a cozy spot in Austin, Texas, cast a faint glow onto the retro checkerboard floor. Tiana's movements were quick and practiced, a result of years spent working long shifts. Her curly dark hair was tied back in a low ponytail, and her worn sneakers squeaked softly against the tiles. The place was lively tonight, filled with the chatter of families, couples, and late-night truckers passing through. Tiana managed a polite smile for every customer, though exhaustion tugged at her features. The diner wasn't just a job, it was her lifeline, the place that paid the bills for her tiny apartment and kept food on the table. She'd learned to handle rude customers, hectic dinner rushes, and the occasional argument at the counter with calm professionalism. Tonight was supposed to be no different. As Tiana returned to the counter to pick up another order, the bell above the front door jingled. She barely glanced up, used to the constant flow of customers. A man walked in, dressed in a gray hoodie and jeans. He wore the hood up, though a glimpse of his face showed a faintly familiar profile. Tiana couldn't place him, and didn't dwell on it. The man sat quietly at the corner booth, head down, scrolling through his phone. Tiana grabbed her notepad and approached him, her usual friendly demeanor in place. "Good evening. What can I get you?" she asked. The man looked up briefly. His pale blue-gray eyes and unassuming manner seemed familiar, but Tiana brushed it off. "Just a cheeseburger and fries, please," he said, his voice low. "Got it. Anything to drink?" "Water's fine." Tiana scribbled down the order and walked back to the kitchen. She'd seen all kinds of people in this diner. Travelers, locals, even a few famous musicians passing through. Whoever this man was, she figured he just wanted to eat in peace. As she brought his water to the table, she couldn't help but notice some of the regulars whispering and glancing in his direction. A middle-aged man in a suit sitting at the counter leaned over to his friend, murmuring something about "that guy" and politics. Tiana ignored it. She wasn't one to pry into her customers' lives. Minutes later, she placed the man's plate in front of him. "Enjoy your meal," she said with a polite smile. "Thanks," he replied, barely looking up. Tiana moved on to the next table, but the low hum of whispers about the man grew louder. A couple of customers openly stared, their eyes filled with suspicion and disdain. The tension in the room began to shift, though Tiana couldn't understand why. She glanced at the man in the booth. He was eating quietly, not causing a scene or drawing attention to himself. Yet something about his presence had sparked unease among the patrons. At the counter, the man in the suit slammed his coffee mug down, his voice rising above the din. "Is that really him? I can't believe you'd serve someone like that here," he barked, pointing toward the corner booth. Tiana froze mid-step, her heart sinking as all eyes turned toward the man in the hoodie. The diner fell silent, the clatter of utensils and low hum of conversation replaced by a charged tension. Tiana turned toward the man at the counter, trying to assess the situation before it spiraled out of control. "Excuse me, sir," Tiana said, her voice calm but firm. "Is there an issue?" The man in the suit pushed his stool back, standing up as he gestured toward the corner booth. "Yeah, there's an issue. You're serving him. Do you even know who that is? It's Elon Musk." A ripple of recognition passed through the room, and Tiana's stomach tightened. She glanced toward the man in the booth, who was now looking up, his expression neutral but alert. Musk? The name registered, but she hadn't put it together until now. He was a tech billionaire, always in the headlines for one controversy or another. But right now, he just looked like a guy trying to eat a burger. "I don't care who he is," Tiana replied evenly. "He's a customer, just like anyone else." The man in the suit wasn't having it. "He doesn't belong here. People like him, people who stir up division and chaos, they're not welcome in this community." Tiana glanced around the room. Some customers looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact, while others seemed to silently agree with the man. Musk stayed seated, taking a measured sip of water, his gaze shifting between Tiana and the escalating scene. Tiana took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Sir, I understand you have strong feelings, but this is a diner, not a debate stage. He's here to eat, not cause trouble. Let's keep it peaceful." "Peaceful?" the man scoffed. "You call serving him peaceful? You're enabling him. If you had any decency, you'd refuse to serve him." Tiana's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "My job is to treat every customer with respect, regardless of their background or beliefs. If you can't respect that, I'll have to ask you to leave." The man's face reddened, and his voice rose further. "You're defending him? Unbelievable. People like you—" He stopped mid-sentence, shaking his head in frustration. Fine. If this is how you run things, I won't be back. He tossed a $20 bill on the counter and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The bell jingled loudly in his wake. Tiana exhaled, trying to steady her nerves. She looked around the room, her face warm with embarrassment. Some customers avoided her gaze, while a few offered small nods of approval. Musk, still seated, finally spoke. "That was impressive," he said, his tone even. "I'm just doing my job," Tiana replied quickly, grabbing a coffee pot to busy herself. But before the tension could fully dissipate, another voice cut through the silence. "Tiana, my office. Now." It was her manager, Jeff, standing at the kitchen doorway with his arms crossed and a sour expression on his face. Tiana followed him into the cramped office in the back, her heart sinking. Jeff wasted no time, slamming the door shut behind her. "What the hell was that?" he snapped. "I was handling a situation," Tiana said, her voice still calm despite her growing anxiety. "Handling it?" Jeff scoffed. "You escalated it. That guy's a regular. Now he's gone because you decided to make a scene defending some. He waved his hand vaguely. "Billionaire." Tiana bristled but kept her tone measured. "I didn't make a scene. I was doing my job. Mr. Musk is a paying customer, and that man was out of line." Jeff rubbed his temples, shaking his head. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about one customer. You've stirred up drama in the middle of our busiest night. I can't have that. You're done here." Tiana blinked, stunned. "You're firing me? For what? Defending someone's right to eat in peace?" Jeff shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Call it whatever you want. You're out." She stared at him for a long moment, a knot tightening in her chest. "Fine," she said quietly, grabbing her bag. She pushed past him and walked through the diner, ignoring the stares of customers and her coworkers. Musk caught her eye as she passed his booth, offering a slight nod of gratitude. But it didn't matter. The cold night air hit her as she stepped outside, her mind racing. Fired. Just like that. She wasn't sure how she'd explain this to herself, let alone anyone else. All she knew was that she couldn't bring herself to regret standing up for what felt right. The cool night air felt sharp against Tiana's cheeks as she trudged toward the bus stop. The streets of Austin buzzed faintly in the distance, but her thoughts drowned out the noise. Fired. The word echoed in her mind, heavier with each step she took. For years, the diner had been her safety net, her steady, if modest, source of income. And now, it was gone. Sitting on the bench under the flickering streetlight, she let her bag drop to the ground. Her fingers trembled as she unlocked her phone to check her bank balance. It wasn't much, just enough to scrape by for the next couple of weeks. Rent was due soon, and groceries would have to stretch. The bus finally arrived, and she climbed aboard, slumping into a seat near the window. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass. Tired eyes, worry etched into her brow, and the faint glimmer of tears she refused to let fall. The scene at the diner replayed in her head. Could she have handled it differently? Would keeping quiet have saved her job? No, she thought firmly. She had done what was right, and if standing by her principles meant losing her job, so be it. The ride to her apartment was short, and soon she was climbing the creaky stairs to her unit. The chipped paint on the door felt like a symbol of her life, functional but worn, holding on by a thread. Inside, the apartment was dimly lit, with thrifted furniture and a single potted plant on the windowsill. Tiana dropped her bag by the door and collapsed onto the couch. Her phone buzzed and she picked it up, hoping for good news. It was a text from her best friend, Monica. "Heard what happened at work. Jeff's an idiot. Call me if you need anything." Tiana smiled faintly at the message. Monica always had her back. Still, tonight she didn't have the energy to talk. She typed a quick reply. "Thanks, I'll be okay. Just need some time." As the hours dragged on, sleep refused to come. Tiana stared at the cracked ceiling, the silence of the room pressing in on her. She thought about the diner, the customers, and Musk. He hadn't done anything to deserve the backlash he'd faced, at least not that night. He was just a man trying to have a meal in peace. Why did that simple idea feel so radical to some people? Eventually, exhaustion took over, and Tiana drifted into a restless sleep on the couch. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, waking Tiana earlier than she had hoped. Her body ached from the awkward angle she'd slept in, and her mind was still clouded with worry. She shuffled to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee, the bitterness of it matching her mood. She was halfway through her first sip when she heard the distinct hum of an electric car pulling up outside. Curious, she set her mug down and peeked through the window. Parked in front of her building was a sleek, metallic Tesla. Her heart skipped a beat as the driver's door opened, and none other than Elon Musk stepped out. He looked the same as he had at the diner, casual, unassuming, but his presence on her street felt almost surreal. Tiana froze, unsure of what to do as Musk approached her door. A soft knock broke her paralysis, and she hurried to open it. "Mr. Musk?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. He offered a polite smile. "Good morning. I hope I'm not intruding." Tiana blinked, still processing the sight of one of the world's most recognizable men standing on her doorstep. "No, not at all. Come in." He stepped inside, his demeanor relaxed but purposeful. "I wanted to thank you," he began, his tone sincere. "What you did last night, standing up for me, it didn't go unnoticed. I know it cost you your job, and I'm sorry for that." Tiana shook her head, regaining some composure. "You don't have to apologize. It wasn't your fault. I just did what felt right." Musk nodded, studying her for a moment. "Well, I believe in rewarding people who do what's right, especially when it comes at a cost." Tiana raised an eyebrow, unsure of where he was going with this. "Reward? I'd like to offer you a job," Musk said simply. "I run a lot of companies, and we're always looking for people with integrity. I think you'd be a great fit for an initiative we're launching, focused on employee well-being. It's a management role, and it pays significantly more than what you were making at the diner." Tiana's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Musk replied. "You stood up for what's right, even when it wasn't easy. That's the kind of person I want on my team." Tiana stood in stunned silence, her coffee mug still warm in her hand as she processed Musk's words. A job? At one of his companies? Her mind raced with questions, but one stood out. "Why me?" she finally asked, her voice quiet. "I mean, I appreciate the offer, but I'm just a waitress. What could I possibly bring to a company like yours?" Musk's expression softened, and for a moment, he didn't look like the larger-than-life billionaire the world knew. "What you bring, Tiana, is something money can't buy. Character. Last night you didn't know who I was, and yet you stood up for me. Not because it benefited you, but because it was the right thing to do. That kind of integrity is rare. I need people like that in my organizations." Tiana hesitated, her thoughts ping-ponging between disbelief and excitement. A better-paying job could change everything. She could finally get ahead on her bills, fix up her apartment, maybe even go back to school. But she was also skeptical. This felt too good to be true. "What exactly is this job?" she asked cautiously. Musk pulled out a tablet from his messenger bag and tapped the screen a few times. He handed it to her, showing a proposal for a new employee wellness initiative. "I want to create a program that ensures every employee, from the factory floor to the executive suite, has access to mental health resources, career development, and support systems. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, but I need someone who understands people, someone who knows what it's like to be overlooked and undervalued." Tiana scrolled through the document, her hands trembling slightly. The role was far beyond anything she'd ever imagined for herself, but as she read the details, a flicker of hope lit up inside her. "You're really serious about this," she said, more to herself than to Musk. "I am," he replied, "and I'm serious about giving you the resources and support you need to succeed. This isn't just a handout, Tiana. It's an opportunity, one that I think you'll excel in." Tiana set the tablet down, taking a deep breath. "I don't even know where to start. I mean, I don't have a college degree or any management experience." "You don't need one," Musk said with a small smile. "You have the most important qualification, integrity. The rest we can teach." She laughed nervously, still grappling with the whirlwind of emotions. This is a lot to take in." Musk nodded, his tone understanding. "I know. Take your time to think about it. I'll leave my contact information, and when you're ready, give me a call." He handed her a business card with his personal number on it, an almost surreal gesture that left her even more bewildered. As he turned to leave, Tiana found her voice again. "Why are you doing this? I mean, you could have just thanked me and moved on." Musk paused at the door, his hand resting on the frame. "Because I've been where you are, on the edge, unsure of what's next. Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most, and it changed everything. Now it's my turn to do the same." With that, he walked out, leaving Tiana standing in her modest apartment, clutching the business card as if it were a golden ticket. She stared at the sleek Tesla as it pulled away, her mind racing with possibilities. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, her life was about to take a turn she never saw coming. 2 weeks later, Tiana stood in front of the sleek glass building that housed one of Elon Musk's companies in Austin. Her palms were clammy, and her heart thudded in her chest. She still couldn't believe this was happening. Dressed in a new blazer and slacks, purchased with what little savings she had left. She felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she stepped through the revolving doors. The lobby was immaculate, a space humming with quiet productivity. An assistant greeted her with a warm smile and escorted her to a conference room where Musk waited. He was dressed just as casually as the night they'd met, a sharp contrast to the corporate setting. "Tiana," he said, standing to greet her. "I'm glad you came." "I almost didn't," she admitted with a small laugh, shaking his hand. "This is all so surreal." Musk gestured for her to sit. "I get that, but I also know you're ready for this." The next hour flew by as they discussed her role in launching the Employee Wellness Initiative. Musk explained how her input would shape the program, and how her story, her ability to connect with people from all walks of life, was exactly what the company needed. Tiana couldn't help but feel a growing sense of purpose. For the first time in years, she felt like her voice truly mattered. 6 months later, the transformation in Tiana's life was nothing short of remarkable. Her new job came with a salary that allowed her to move into a better apartment and finally pay off lingering debts. More than that, she found herself thriving in her role. She traveled to company sites, speaking with employees, listening to their concerns, and helping implement meaningful changes. Her natural empathy and ability to advocate for others made her an invaluable part of the team. Her story also became an inspiration. Musk occasionally referenced her in interviews, highlighting her as an example of resilience and integrity. While the attention was overwhelming at first, Tiana eventually embraced it, seeing it as an opportunity to inspire others facing challenges like hers. One day, while reviewing program feedback at her office, Tiana received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Tiana, this is Jeff," the voice on the other end said. She froze. Jeff, her former manager at the diner, the one who had fired her without hesitation. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping her tone professional. I saw the news. I had no idea you'd end up working for Musk. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." Tiana sat back, a mix of emotions swirling within her. She thought about the humiliation she'd felt that night, the uncertainty of what would come next. But now, sitting in her office, she realized she had no reason to hold on to anger. "Thank you," she said simply. "I hope you've learned something from all this." "I have," Jeff replied. "You're proof that standing up for what's right pays off. I wish you the best." After the call ended, Tiana stared out the window, reflecting on how far she'd come. Life had tested her, but she'd held on to her principles, and it had led her to a place she never imagined. Tiana's journey was a testament to the power of integrity. In a world often divided by judgment and fear, standing up for what's right can feel like an impossible choice. But her story proved that even in the face of loss, doing the right thing can open doors to opportunities beyond imagination. Courage, compassion, and resilience are the foundations of change, not just for oneself, but for others.